Some giant's been here.
Sweet. I see you got it. Yeah.
You ready over there, Margaret?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Call the Newman City Council regular meeting, May 22nd, 2001, to order. Can we rise and pledge allegiance and remain standing for the invocation, please?
Oh, I forget that all the time.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Fantasia will lead us in the invocation.
Bow our heads. Please allow myself and my fellow colleagues to lead the city and to the right decisions for the future. Amen.
Amen.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmembers Parker,
Present.
Applegate,
Present.
Martinez,
Present.
Fantasia,
Present.
Mayor Reed.
Present. Do we have any communications from staff tonight? I don't see any staff
No.
except you, Margaret.
Margaret. None.
Nothing? Okay. Item number 6, items from the public, non-agenda items. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone may be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the Council and not on a posted agenda may be addressed by the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it's determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Have any items from the public, non-agenda items?
David
There you go.
David Larson, 1144T. It's not really an agenda item or anything like that. It's just the school that I work at. There was a young girl that was killed about a year ago or so, and the parents ran into Gary Condit, and they got to talking about how the communities of Newman and Crow's Landing helped them through this very hard time, and he gave them this little thing, and it's to the Newman community, and it's for the Amanda Arredondo Memorial dedication, the picnic area that they dedicated to her. And it says, "I want to take this opportunity to thank you and to extend my appreciation to the Newman community. I commend you for your commitment to assisting the students and their families cope with the loss of their classmate Amanda Arredondo. Your dedication and assistance to everyone cannot go unnoticed. Special people like the Newman community makes the world a better place to live, work, and raise our families. Your contributions help the entire community come together during this difficult time. Once again, thank you for assistance, and please feel free to contact me if ever be of assistance, Gary Condit." Anyway, the Newman community really helped his family get through their tough times. So, just wanted to present this to the council.
Thank you, Dave. I'll take it.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Items from the public, agenda items. Any member of the audience desiring to address the council on a matter on the agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the mayor. In order that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the mayor grants a longer period of time. And if you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Item number 7, public hearings. Review and approve the final grantee performance report, CDBG 98-STBG-1258. Would you like to translate that first, please, before
I'll have to have Margaret
people out there in
translate
TV
that
land?
one.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council.
Hi, Margaret.
Hello. The item before you is a public hearing in which our citizens are given the opportunity to get information regarding our Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, program. Tonight we'll be reviewing the final closeout for grant number 1258, which was a housing rehabilitation program, and also amendment to the guidelines to the program, which will increase the funding for housing rehabilitation for future projects. The CDBG program is designed to meet 2 national objectives. One is to assist targeted groups They include low-income, minorities, handicapped, and elderly households, and also to assist the city in eliminating slums and blight. The first part of our discussion will be on the recently closed out CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Grant, grant number 1258. It was a $500,000 grant to the city, of which we spent $37,500 for administration and $459,757 for actual rehabilitation. $2,700 was sent back to HUD as excess funds. With these fundings, we rehabilitated 16 homes. This was the fourth and sixth grants that the city has received. We've received a total of over $2,335,000 over the past 8 years. Of that funds, we also are required to have a 10% cash match, as well as in-kind staff administrative services. This funding normally comes out of the redevelopment program, the housing set-aside. We also funnel program income into the program to help assist open grants in taking care of items that couldn't be covered directly in the grant. As a result of this $500,000 that we received, we actually spent $579,045 on the program through March 31st, and there will be additional costs as this meeting concludes. The second portion of the hearing is just to advise council that the guidelines have been revised due to construction costs and the rising construction costs, that we're going to up the maximum funding available for a house rehabilitation from $40,000 to $50,000 per loan, and for reconstruction $50,000 to $60,000 per loan. This concludes the information portion of the public meeting. The council is asked to invite any interested public member to provide their input and ask questions, and then review and approve the actual report.
Thank you, Margaret. This being a public hearing, I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone have any comments? We'll close the public hearing. Any questions from Margaret? Mark, you've done your usual thorough job here, and I don't think there's anything here that I could question.
No, I move that we approve the final grantee performance report, CDBG 98 STBG 1258.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 8 is the consent calendar. Item 8A is approval of warrants. Item 8B, approval of minutes of the May 8, 2001 regular meeting. Item 8C, adopt resolution number 2001, next number, a resolution establishing a tax-related appropriation limit in compliance with Proposition 4 for the fiscal year 2001-2002. Item 8D, adopt resolution number 2001, next number, resolution adopting the City of Newman CDBG program income reuse plan. Item 8E, approved by minute motion the renewal of an agreement for services with Self-Help Enterprises for collection of CDBG loan repayments. Item 8F, authorize city manager to sign AT&T wireless data service agreement. Any questions on the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve the consent calendar with the exception of item F. I'd like to pull item F for discussion.
Okay.
Second.
We will have a vote to approve the consent calendar minus item F. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 8F, this is the authorized city manager to sign AT&T wireless data service agreement. This is primarily for the police department.
Correct.
And
100% police department.
What they want to do is upgrade their communication system to cellular, and at a cost of $49 per patrol unit. Do you know how many patrol units we have? Mike isn't here today, so.
We have a total of 5, I believe, patrol units. Is it 6 now?
Okay.
That was part of the questioning I wanted to ask. So
So,
6
we're
patrol
talking,
cars?
we're talking $300. What is the cost of the cellular phones? Is there a cost on that, or is the,
It's not, these are not phones.
I mean, the cellular equipment? That's already been purchased,
That's already
right?
been taken care of.
Okay.
That's being taken care of as part of the technology money that was received from the state this
Right.
last year.
This grant.
Okay. Tim, anything else?
Yeah, the only other question I had was, you stated in your staff report that this was already budgeted in our fiscal year coming up for 2001, 2002?
No, because we haven't adopted that budget. What
Okay.
we're stating is that it will be placed in that budget for the coming year.
So so in other words, this contract is on the table now?
Yes.
So that's why you're asking for the appropriation of the funds?
Right. Yeah.
There isn't sufficient funds in the current budget out of the police department to have this appropriation taken?
Well, what will happen, this is technically to sign the contract so that it will be in place for the upcoming fiscal year. We need to sign the contract now to get the process going, to get the lines done, everything set up so it can be ready to go when we get it. We don't even have all the laptop computers installed in our cars and all of that yet.
Okay, so...
But we need to start the process, so we won't be paying anything, I don't believe, out of this year's budget. If there is any minimum amount, we can cover it in this year's budget.
Okay, I'm
But this
following.
is more the contract amount for the next fiscal year. This money will be included in next year's budget.
So in actuality, we're not actually incurring any costs currently?
No,
Okay, thank you.
Just be
No.
$2,940 for next year's.
right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, nothing further. I move that we approve consent calendar item number 8F.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 9, regular business. Item 9A. Consider Tataric proposal to dispose of wastewater and reopen and direct staff as to formal response.
As council knows, tomorrow at 10 a.m. is a public hearing before the San Joaquin Valley Unified Air Pollution Control District to consider an appeal of their decision to basically not reissue the boiler permits, I believe it is, for Tataric and allow them to restart up. I don't have the date on here. It was approximately a couple of months ago that we had the previous hearing when that request was denied. I have put on the podium in front of you tonight 2 letters. One is from Stanislaus County. The other is from the attorney for Tataric. These are reports, details as to what they are planning to do. As you could see in my report, I didn't have this information, and that's why I'm providing it for you here tonight. Again, because the hearing is tomorrow, I want to get you as much information as I can. As you can see, if you had a chance to look at these at all, I realize you probably haven't, but maybe I can just briefly talk about this. Also in the audience tonight is Alex Benecki from Tataric, and also George Stillman from the county, who provided this letter from the county to us, who can assist us with any questions or details that you might have. Just briefly, maybe I can go over this the way I understand the proposal, and then Alex, if you need to get up later and clarify any mistakes I made, or George, you can do that. It is my understanding that they will take the water out of the pond. The cover would remain on the pond. The water will simply be pumped out of the pond and directly into trucks, tanker trucks, which will take the water up to the property that the county owns next to the landfill. It will be distributed on the dry ground and then disked into the ground at approximately the top 6 inches of the ground. There have been some questions raised that perhaps there still could be odor, and actually this is possibly even more upwind from us than their current location. However, it is quite a bit farther away. As you can see from the report here, it's approximately 9 miles away from where the actual site would be that they would be getting rid of the water. In addition, they've stated that they will be disking it immediately as it is put on the ground, which is supposed to prevent any odor from escaping at that point. That's kind of in a nutshell what they're planning. The other part of this whole process that they're requesting is to be allowed to start up immediately with this next season's process, so that they can again be generating revenue as they are getting rid of the water. It's my understanding that if it goes as planned, that they would be able to get rid of the water in approximately 1 year from the time the permit is approved by the State Water Resources Board, who would have to approve the process of them putting the water on the land. The only issue that I have that I didn't have in my report because I didn't put it, and I'm not sure that it's in the conditions that the Air Board has listed here. You have a copy of their report attached to mine in my staff report. The only consideration that I would like to be looked at, it's my understanding, and I've heard this number, I don't believe I saw it in their report, but I've heard the estimate that it will be about $500,000 to dispose of this water as a cost to do the process. I would like to see consideration for asking if that amount could be bonded for again in the case that they get halfway through the process and for some reason there is something that goes wrong and the plant does have to shut down and they stop the whole process, that we could ensure that the remainder of the water could be disposed of at that point. I don't know that that's been brought up at all. This was just something in reviewing all the information today that I came up with, and so that's the only other thing that I would like to add. With that, I would suggest maybe that we allow Alex to speak from Tatarik, if he would like to, and then Mr. Steelman, Stanislaus County Public Works Director, if he has anything to add. So.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen,
You can raise that up.
members of the council. Name is Alex Benecki, and I'm one of the owners of Tatarik Manufacturing in Newman at 2155 Hills Ferry Road. I believe that Mr. Morris have given you a very clear explanation of what, in summary, the plan is. I just would like to underline the fact that the application, of course, will be a one-time event. And of course, as he said, it will take approximately 1 year from the day of the attainment of the permit from the state of California to empty the pond. And what I need to underline is that this plan will be feasible only if the company is allowed to resume operation this fall. No water disposal or recycling plan is possible unless the company can generate the profits to be used to make it happen. It is still a firm commitment from the company to use the entire amount of the profits from the new operation for the completion of this water removal project from pond number 4. Of course, needless to say, the project is designed to satisfy the requirements of the state of California and Stanislaus County Code for water application to land and the various CEQA requirements for flood protection, erosion control, surface water control, spill control, and groundwater impacts. I'd like to conclude saying that Tatarik previously proposed a 5-year disposal plan because that was the safest and fastest method that could be accomplished given Tartarik's financial resources. Indeed, Tatarik promised to use all of its profit for 5 years to remove the water. The plan proposed now, which will remove all of the water from the pond within a year, is also limited by economics. Tatarik can afford this plan only if it's allowed to operate using the odor control procedures that the Art District staff previously reviewed while pond number 4 is drained. Thus, Tatarik requests that its boiler permit, tomorrow will request that this boiler permit will be restored and that Tatarik will be allowed to begin operation in September of 2001. By that time, Tatarik will either have obtained the necessary permits for its recycling plan or be sufficiently close to receiving a decision that the Air District can be satisfied that Tartarik's plan to remove the water will be approved. On the other hand, if Tartaric is unable to obtain a permit, the district could suspend or revoke the boiler permit at that time. We are extremely close to a final solution of Tartaric's water issue. We all want the problem solved once and forever, and the company is asking to be put in a position to expeditiously resolve this issue. Please give us this last chance to solve the problem. Thank you for your understanding.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions for Alex from the council?
I had a couple of questions, simply because this has been such a sore issue in this community. People have a strong aversion to the smell. It's not an aversion to the business, it's an aversion to the smell and what they believe to be toxins that affect them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Tartaric plant, you being part owner, is part of a parent company, it's a subsidiary?
Yeah, Tartaric Manufacturing is a company on its own.
Okay.
But it is related to its commercial arm in New York. This is, when I mean related, I mean there's a part of the ownership is in the hand of the New York commercial arm.
And with that being the case, it being a part of the commercial arm within the New York conglomerate, what I'm looking at is what you've just stated in terms of having to have this operation going full-fledged for economic purpose in order to eradicate what we're concerned here with in the city of Newman. Is there any possibility of the parent company subsidizing for some of those cost factors? Because what I'm hearing from you is, well, we can't really clean it up unless we have operation. Why isn't there the possibilities of it being subsidized by the parent company so that we can eradicate what we're most concerned with?
Unfortunately, the explanation is very simple. Both Tartaric Manufacturing Corporation and its parent company are in disastrous financial situation due to the heavy burden of keeping a plant idle without any kind of operation, but more than that, due to the over $2 million that the money that the company had to put out because of fines from the several agencies that have fined us, and we would be willing, provided that we can have some confidential agreement signed to provide the necessary financial statement to prove that. But this is a very simple situation. Both companies are in disastrous financial situation. There is no way that the company can survive if it does, unless the company does start, and it is a very unfortunate situation. I'd like the situation to be different, but it would be not smart from our side to hide behind this and not to admit it. The company is in disastrous financial situation.
Well, I thank you for your frankness and your candidness in terms of that statement, and I would concur with city staff in terms of a bond issue, because we wouldn't want to have that become such a disastrous financial situation that our town is now sitting in the middle of an incomplete job that's affecting us.
I'd like just to add one simple thing. We have gone out already in the financial market to look for another bond that the Regional Water Quality Control was requesting. There is not one financial institution that will be willing to loan money to Tartaric Manufacturing unless they see the company in operation and with the operational permit. Unfortunately, it's kind of a catch-22, but you have my personal assurance that if the company will start operation, that water will be out of there, and will be out of there much faster than 1 year.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it possible, Alex, that within, say, we could say within a month of being allowed to start up, that financial assurance could be provided.
We will look into that by talking to several insurance companies that we already have talked to, because the best way to put this situation into paper is to look for insurance companies in this particular case, because it is very clear that the company does not have that kind of money available. And that's why it is dedicating the first profit available from the new operations to solve this problem before anything else gets done.
I have a question. I have a letter from George Stillman as the director for Stanislaus County. In his letter, he states this may not even be a viable solution. So what I'm saying is, we're sitting up here talking about this whole thing. This may not even work.
On Tartaric Manufacturing Corporation side, there is a total confidence that this plan will work 100%.
I'm not talking about the plan. I'm talking about putting the water on the land.
I'm talking about the plan, this disposal plan of putting the water in the on the land.
Well, according to the letter I have in front of me, that this may not be a viable solution. And I'm saying that we need to know, first of all, if it is a viable solution, if it is possible.
We know it is. We've talked to our experts, and they have told us that this is a valuable solution and it is a feasible solution.
Let me tell you about your experts. We've gone through this before, and the experts, so-called, the reason we're here tonight is because the experts were wrong. We don't want to make another mistake.
Well, I guess we will have to leave that in the hands of the county experts then.
Absolutely.
What we're saying, I think, Alex, is that we're going to have to see some of that water actually on the land out there, and have the soil engineer check it out and everything before we could ever approve anything. I mean, we can't just say, okay, your experts say that this will be fine, there'll be no odors from it, it won't contaminate the ground. But if it does, then we're back to square one again. So I think that's what Councilman Martina was trying to say. So,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think before we go any further on this, we need to hear from George Stillman, because the county has to get the environmental approval first before any of this can take place. And so that's where we are right now. There will be written agreements. Everything will be in writing. When George is through, I want to share with you a conversation I had with the Air Pollution Control District on a conference call this afternoon. And it'll fill you in on a lot of this stuff.
And then one last thing, if I may. As I said, the project is designed to satisfy the requirements of the state of California and Stanislaus County for water application to land, and CEQA requirements for flood protection, erosion control, surface water control, spill control, and groundwater impact. So these will be conditions that will have to be met, or the Regional Water Quality Control Board will not allow this plan to happen. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Benicki.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, George Stillman, Stanislaus County. The position the county is taking is that if there is a way we can help, we would like to. I think this has really dragged on far too long for everyone, both the folks within the city and without the city. And again, if there's something that we can do to help, we would like to offer that up. We have hired a soil scientist. The soil scientist has gone out and taken tests of the waste material and the soils around the landfill. What we have around the landfill is about 320 acres of flat land that is in fallow condition right now. So it could be applied to it. Can I absolutely guarantee that the process would work? I can't, but the experts we've hired are confident that it will. According to the experts that we have hired, the material is relatively benign, and it would be classed as a low-class fertilizer, which is one of the reasons that it has the odor that it does. But we would disc it into the soil immediately after application. What we're being told by our experts is that as soon as that disking takes place, the odor is essentially gone. What we would like to do is to try to help with a solution that gets it out in one season as opposed to dragging out over several, get that pond emptied, and so all of us can kind of get on with more productive business. We have details that are really yet to be worked out, exactly how it would be applied to land. but our scientist is confident that it can work and it will work. He's taken a look at his own independent analysis of the material and feels he has a solution that is good. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions the council may have.
Okay, George, if you just, wait a minute, let, Tom, you want to go ahead with what you had heard from the
Yeah,
Air Quality
okay.
Board today?
Yeah, I talked
We'll
to
put this all together.
Yeah, the executive director, the attorney, and the compliance director. And what they're going to do is and the hearing board has full control over what happens. We can recommend, they can recommend, but it's up to the hearing board to say whatever they have to say. The board of directors of air pollution control has no jurisdiction over it whatsoever, and I sit on that board. So therefore, there's no conflict of interest in that, because there's no financial gain for me, and we can't tell them to do anything anyway. Whatever their decision is, it's final. What the air pollution wants to see is they want to see the written agreement with the county. They want to see the written contracts on Bakersfield to haul the water out that you use in processing. What kind of trucks will be involved? And what Dave Crow, who is the executive director, told me is that they're going to recommend conceptual agreement on this program, which means that they want to put it in place as long as everything is done properly in written form contracts. He said he is recommending to the board that he be in charge of putting this whole package together. He will devote all his time to do this. He has until September. But before anything can ever happen, before they would ever get permitted, it will come back to this council, the entire written agreement for us to peruse, and then make our recommendations. So that's where we are right now. So it will all be done, nuts and bolts. And I have full faith in David Crow as executive director. So that's where we stand at this point in time. Everything will be in writing, our recommendations. One question I had with you, sir, in the event that all of this fails, is the county prepared to empty the pond? The state said no, that they wouldn't touch it.
State probably wouldn't touch it. Can
No.
I give you a very definite maybe?
Okay. Well,
I
okay.
talked to Paul Caruso last week about that, exactly.
One other thing too, and this is what David told me. David has full authority in this aspect. In the event that you start your operations and you're hauling the water, and for some reason that something happened in your process that the odor did emanate again, he has full authority and assured me that he would shut them down. So that also helps you a little bit into where are we? What can be done in the event that there are odors that come up again? So that's all I have to add.
I might add, from the county's perspective, we are not interested in having an odor problem by the landfill either.
Right.
And what we're trying our very best to do is to come up with a process that reasonably guarantees that the odors won't be an issue. There'll be a little bit, depending upon how far behind as the spreader truck, the disking takes place. We'd like to work out a system where, I mean, it is right there. That there's going to be a lot of sensitivity as to how the material is applied and where it's applied. The experts are telling us, the county, and you know, these are good, unbiased people, that it's very similar to materials that they use all the time. We just need to get out and get it
Right.
done.
Well, one thing, Mr. Badecki, in the 5-year plan that was brought up before, the last time around, it would have cost $2 million to have that stuff trucked down to Bakersfield. What's going to happen here is that because of the closeness with the county, that it only costs $500,000, which gives them time to do it within the 1-year period, which, as far as I can see, what I've seen and heard from the board and from the county, to me it looks like a very viable program that we should really be interested in. This will take care of the problem once for all. And like I say, if it doesn't take care of the problem, Air Board still has the authority in the event of odors to close them down.
Okay, any other questions for?
I had one question, George. Has the county thought about hauling like a couple hundred gallons, up there just to put on the ground and see what would happen? I mean,
It's
would they be
interesting.
willing to do that, or?
Yeah, we discussed that with our scientist today. In fact, it was his idea. If the council would like to see that, we would be glad to.
County would allow that to see,
Oh, sure.
test what would happen?
Say we're in kind of the same situation that you folks are. We will also require agreements. You know, obviously for our own protection to make certain that what happens is how it is supposed to happen. But if a test plot would help the council and the neighbors, we would be glad to participate in that.
I'd like to see that.
And as I understand it, everything will be in writing with agreements and contracts.
Yes.
Mr. Benecki, do you think that it'd be possible to get one truckload of water hauled out of there to spread to see what happens? I'd like to see it with the, you were talking about the charcoal filter on the truck, and I would like to have some representatives there when that truck is loaded and unloaded, and see what happens there.
Okay, we'll make sure to make it happen. Just need a little bit of time to organize it, to
Yeah.
get everything organized.
Okay, and that way we can go from one end to the other and see what happens.
We'll make it happen.
Okay. Any other questions?
George, I just had one question. I'm sitting with your letter in front of me, and I was just wondering, because it's saying that you didn't know this was a viable solution at this point, but I think what you said just a short time ago, that your engineers already said it is viable.
The difficulty we had and why there's, I guess the best way to put it, some waffle words in the letter is that we did not have the information back.
Okay,
Quite honestly, we didn't want to rely on anyone's test results except our own.
okay.
We got the tests back. The scientist we've hired was very pleased with how they came back, and it's what raised our comfort level and his comfort level that it would apply. I'm always leery in using someone else's data.
The problem is, see, when I read this letter, it leaves me saying that we don't know if it's viable. But what you're telling me is the tests have already come back and said that
Yes.
is, that,
What the concern was, and I am not a soils expert at all, but it was the amount of salts in the material, I think, one of the governing factors, and how that would be handled. What we've really gotten into it is that there are salts and then there are salts. The ones that we have as a part of this sludge material are more benign, and the way they're broken down, they'll have different effects on the soil. So I'm comfortable that the land would not be harmed in any way by this application, which is one of our criteria.
I don't think the land's going to be harmed. My concern is the odors. I think that the community does not want to live with
Completely
the odors.
understandable.
As far as what they're putting on the ground, I don't think there's anything that's going to hurt the soil or the waters, but I'm just concerned about the odors.
We share exactly the same concerns. And it's, well, one of the other things we need to do is the first couple of applications, we're going to have to experiment. How close can we get? What can we do to get closer? How can we apply it so we get this disking almost immediately? Everyone is totally confident, which makes me feel better about it, saying that as soon as it's disked into the soil, the odor's gone. But it's a matter of, we've got to make certain that the stuff isn't lying out there in a ditch or a trench for any length of time before that disking takes place. And once we have that process underway, we're comfortable it'll work.
I have to state emphatically, just in lieu of what Mr. Stillman just stated in terms of being confident. I am not confident. Another term that he used was experimental. That has been the concern. It's been an experiment. It's been a malodorous experiment. Whatever plays out will play out. We'll certainly hear from this community if it amounts to odors again. That's what this began with. As far as a comfort level, this meeting is not making me comfortable from the information I have, from the letters I just received this evening at the start of this meeting. How am I going to be comfortable with that? How do I digest letters and information that I just get at a council meeting for this evening? I spend hours going over a council agenda to make certain that I'm well informed when I sit behind this dais, because I like to be well informed when I'm presenting myself in public on a knowledgeable basis. So as far as a comfort level, I don't know how my colleagues feel. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel assured. There are no assurances from what I've been hearing this evening. We all take risk in life, and certainly this sounds as this is still going to be risky. By no means am I, the parameters are open. I tend to have an objective point of view. But like I said, we've gone round and round and round again with this. I've heard from Alex stating about the disastrous financial position that the company is in, and for the most part, you know, the experimental phase has been a continuum. And so it would be my hope that this does work. We don't have any assurances, we don't have any guarantees, but I'm certain that if it does smell, we'll hear about it. And so I'm gonna sit here behind this dais and say, well, I'm not comfortable with it. And personal assurances are fine said. My word is my bond. However, yeah, there's nothing like a written contract. But if we all know, written contracts can be disputed as well. So, you know, I applaud the county for their assistance and for them to come forward to say, well, we want to make this right in the community of Newman on the west side. But I'm certainly not comfortable with it in any means. So.
If I could, Mr. Councilman, I can totally relate to what you're saying and understand it. It gives me a lot of the same feelings that I've had the last couple of days, too. When I say experiment, the basic concept by all of the experts we've talked to, county experts and hired experts, say that the plan will work. When I say experiment, it's, you know, how far behind the truck do we go with a hose? How close to the hose can we get with a disking tractor? How many tractors do we have to have out there at once? How many trucks can we handle? Not experiment on whether it will work, but experiment on how best we can do it, keeping all the odors down. You know, I would invite the council to come out. We are not interested in odors, and we have exactly the same concerns that you folks have. We've got a relatively nice landfill operation. We've got property that has a lot of potential. We're being told this would essentially be just a fertilizer. It can be applied full strength, which allows us to get it in and get it out, so the problem's just kind of gone away as opposed to taking 4 or 5 years. But being, you know, very honest with you, it's going to take a couple of days to find out how close to get the trucks, how to do the disking, how many tractors to have out there. That is what I was meaning, and I apologize for the confusion on experimenting with it. I think there's general consensus that the technique will work. You know, I just soon have a tractor follow the truck right there. But we're looking at ways to, you know, move around with hoses so we get closer to the tractor. We've got to get it in that soil as quickly as we can.
Okay. Thank you.
I feel very comfortable with it at this point of everything that I've seen. And one of the reasons I say that is that we have a program that looks like it could work very well. And to me, it beats trying to program beats giving them the opportunity to leave the country and leave us 12 to 15 million gallons of water. So I say, you know, well, let's go for it and try it. And we have the assurances of the Air Pollution Control Board that if the odors are there, they will shut them down. That's where I come from.
I might add, if I can also, is that the county, we're trying to be good neighbors to the west side. And we would like you folks there all the time, seeing what you need to see to feel comfortable that the right thing is happening. We look at you folks as being pretty much our partners in these situations. We're not interested in, you know, running around and doing things that, you know, cause problems on the west side or problems for elected officials. You know, we invite you there because it's got to work. We really can't have any secrets.
Right. Well, we've had this discussions before, and I just want to know that I really appreciate what you have done for us out here on the west side. Stuff that has never been done for us before, you have stepped up and have done them. So I thank you for that.
Just your presence this evening. I'm impressed. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anyone else have any questions for George?
No, only I'd like to make a comment. You know, I don't have an axe to grind with Tartaric, but the thing we have to really be concerned about is our community. You know, they've gone through some difficult times, and you talk about financial loss. There's people out there that feel that they've had financial loss because of it. So that's why I'm concerned, and I want to proceed very cautiously and make sure this is going to work.
I just have one, it doesn't exactly relate to this disposal of the wastewater, but again it does. When this water is completely gone, what's going to happen with those ponds that are empty ponds? What are you going to do with those?
With that, I will back off.
Thank you, George.
The ponds, as you may know, have been a big investments for the company, and also the cost of removal of the ponds will be a big investment. As soon as all the ponds will be clean, now there's only pond 4 that is not clean. The other, on pond 3 and pond 5, there is some rainwater that has been collected from the precipitation of the last months. And we don't have a final plan of what to do with those ponds. We would like to do something constructive, and we understand that the local community does not like the way they look, especially because they are located in one of the main entrances to Newman, and that is why we have decided to landscape the area even before we were allowed to start operation. And we have planned along the way of Stir Road and all along the way of Hills Ferry Road over 930 trees that will grow up to 6 feet in less than 2 years, and will keep growing. And so that, the actual visual impact of the pond coming into Newman will not be there anymore.
Okay, one other crucial question. You still have the cover on the pond, obviously. Now, when the water's gone, what are you going to do with this cover?
The cover will have to be removed so that we can actually sweep the pond as we have done for all the others, and collect the eventual traces of solids present.
And you don't feel there's going to be any odor when you do this?
We cannot predict that. There might be odors, but if we do it cautiously...
Well, I mean, obviously there's going to be odors. I mean, you have the solids, some solids in there. You have, even if you have no water, once that cover comes off... Whoosh.
But if we do it cautiously and we deflate the cover, and if there's any air that is left, and we put the same technology that we're going to use to the loading of the trucks, using carbon filtration for the air, the odor will be reduced, and with the amount of solids that will be present at that site, I doubt that there will be any odor going out of the premises, because we're not spraying anything. There's not going to be any liquid left, and the amount of solids in that pond will probably half-inch, being that pond has been already cleaned twice.
Okay, and one other question. This the recycling plan, is this the same plan that's going to be presented to the Air Board tomorrow?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Might be worded a little different, and there might be some additions just related to the boiler permit and some more financial information for the company, but the plan is exactly what it is.
Okay, that's all I have. Anyone else have anything else for Alex? Okay, thank you.
I want to set aside, Alex, all of the discourse that we've had about the odor and about cleaning the pond and the issue of the solids. Let's go from a business perspective based on some of the words and some of the statements that you made about being in financial disorder. Let's talk theoretically. You're able to go full-fledged, full operation. The Tartaric plant is up and running. There are no encumbrances. When would you expect profitability? When would you expect it to become an economic turnaround? Would that be an immediacy? Would you make money and profit? What would be your answer to that?
The tartaric acid market in the United States is a very easy market. The product is, we can sell more product than we can produce if we could produce it. And so the company is becoming profitable immediately. The only thing is that the first profit will not be used for anything else but the disposal of the water. So before the company will become wealthy, we'll have to wait for the problem to be solved. But the important thing is to solve the problem. That's the first stage.
Absolutely.
But there will be a period of time after you start and before any profits come in.
There might be
Several months at least.
no, because the production of calcium tart is going to take about 3 or 4 days to produce the first load of calcium tartrate, and it's going to take a week or 10 days to produce the first load of tartaric acid. So in a matter of a maximum 4 weeks, we can start selling the first load. And
But then you have to wait until your customer reimburses you for the product.
most of the time, the tartaric acid is paid a COD with a discount.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Well, what we have to come up with is a recommendation here for staff as to for a formal response. Anyone have any comments before? I have something to say, but I'll wait and see if anybody else says anything first. Okay. I would like, before we make any decisions, I would like to see this go to the Air Board, see what the response is from our citizens tomorrow, and before we commit ourselves one way or another on this. I think it's feasible. I think it's worth a try. Anything, as we've always said, we would like to see Tartaric start back up and be a viable asset to the community. But we don't want to let it happen if there's going to be problems. If everything is in writing and we get a truckload of this water and everything turns out all right, we don't get any odors from it, I think that we could make decisions here. But anyone else have any feelings on that?
You mean you don't want our city manager to say anything tomorrow? It's not going to look very good.
Well, no. If just what I said, yeah, I think that if anyone wants to make it any stronger than that, fine.
If I could, perhaps, what I'm kind of thinking and what I'm hearing, and hopefully, and I don't know what the citizens think about this, is that this plan, as you can see, the letter from Mr. Rosenberg, who is Tataric's attorney, at the bottom of the first page, which is the facts cover sheet, it says, any approval tomorrow will necessarily have to be contingent. In other words, the tests have not been completed. One of the tests that we've talked about tonight is doing a sample, running one truckload up there with, and having it dished into the soil, see how that works. There's also some details that have to come back, and so all of it has to be contingent on that. My thought was we give approval to move forward with the tests and the rest of the things to see if it will work.
Yes.
And if there is any problem or anything that comes back along the way, obviously, then it doesn't go forward.
No, the whole package will be given to us.
Sure.
Before it's ever, approved.
Great.
And we will have that chance to look at it.
So I guess what I'm saying is we don't actually approve the plan. We're not saying we approve the plan. What we approve of is moving forward with the testing and some of the other things that need to be done
Right.
to see if it is a viable option and if it can indeed remove the water without causing an odor. The only other thing that I would like direction from the council on is the issue of requiring a bond. If it is not feasible to do it until they start up, then do we require some sort of assurance within 30 days from startup or something like that? Is that something the council is interested in me bringing up or not?
Yes, either from some sort of a bond or assurance from a bond from Tartaric or assurance from the county that this will be removed, the water will be removed somehow or other. So,
Well, just based on what Alex stated in terms of profitability or how quickly, I guess a 30-day reprieve would be, would suffice. But certainly the bond issue is one of the assurances we would want. I don't know, nothing further drawn out than 1 month period.
all right, can we have a motion
No, just
to
one other statement
go-
in respect to this, is that you have to keep in mind, as a council, all we can do is recommend. We can't approve anything. The hearing board has complete jurisdiction, and whatever they say, we have to abide by.
That's right. I agree. So, can we have a motion to move forward with the testing and to have assurances of either a bond or something similar in case this doesn't work, so we can get rid of the water?
Well,
no,
Mr.
that's
Mayor,
a
what I
little-
would do, I would move that we consider the Toteric proposal as we discussed tonight with the contingencies, having that wording said, drawn by staff for our positioning on the meeting tomorrow.
Can we add to your motion, Tim? Or?
Sure.
I would like to see that test done. You know, whole load up there. You know,
Well,
being
that's, the proceed
Well,
with
those are the
testing.
first
That's
thing.
part of it,
Okay.
yeah.
Being a farmer myself, I think sometimes you just have to try something to see if it'll work.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
might not work. You know, I say, you know, if the county allows that, take a load up there, dump it, and see if we could be dissed in.
With observers from the city.
Observers, I'd like to be there.
Yes, I would too.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that satisfactory to you, with that
That's
motion?
fine,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Any opposed?
Jump that direction.
Passes 5-0.
Excuse me, Mayor, could you restate what you just voted on?
John, why don't you
It was his
restate
motion.
that,
Did you
please?
It was his motion.
Well,
Okay.
my motion was to move that we consider the Toteric proposal to dispose of the wastewater based upon the contingencies as discussed.
And yours is just a
Yes.
comment.
George wants to talk.
George, do you have something else there?
I could thank you in just a moment. I would like to apologize for the lateness in the memo. That was totally our doing and no one else's fault. I work for elected officials, and as you say, if you don't have time to go through these items and digest them, it's not really fair to have to make decisions on them. A whole bunch of reasons why this one came through late, and I apologize for that, but it also won't happen again.
Thank you for being here, though.
We appreciate the letter anyway, George, even if it was late or whatever.
Better than nothing at all.
That's right, gave us something to go on here. Okay. Item 9B, approve proposal for downtown promotion costs during streetscape construction, estimated at $4,500.
You have my report here. I don't know that there's a lot to add to this. I'll receive any questions or comments you may have. I would like to look at the program that we have designed here. These costs are a little bit conceptual at this point. The one point that I do have, the hard hats, I have a sample. I was going to bring it over here tonight, and I forgot to do that. But it's in my office if you'd like to stop in and see. And the one thing that I was kind of happy about with these hard hits, they're not just the little flimsy plastic that you've seen. They are a sturdy plastic hard hat that you might buy for your son or whoever in a toy store. They're much nicer, I guess I can say. That has a little adjustable size thing in it and everything. So it's a nice little hard hat, and I think it's something that could be attractive. I have not ordered all of these yet. I am looking at the option of perhaps rather than get a full 1,000 of these, we may get 300 of these, and then maybe get something like 300 little shovels that might have a label on them. That way, the kids, when they come the first time, they get a shovel. The second time, maybe they get a hard hat, and the third time they get something else. So I'm kind of exploring that as an option rather than just all hard hats. That's one part of it. The other part is the advertisement advertising during the construction process. I've kind of outlined this. I've worked with Madison newspapers on some things that we can do. They're working out more of the specifics for me, but they've given me some ideas here that we can do during this time. The only other issue is how to pay for this. I've presented three options here. One, and possibly the most controversial, is because it has been over the last few months, is the business license surcharge fund. The second would be using a redevelopment, either tax increment funds or tax bond funds, as I understand. Either one would possibly be available. And then the third is the general fund. And you've seen my position that our general fund, I'm very, I guess me, but I recommend to you to be very protective of that because of the number of resources that have to draw on the general fund. All of our public safety, fire, parks and recreation, as well as some of our administrative that has to rely on that general fund for their services.
We're currently looking at the current fiscal year for these funds.
Yeah, this is money that is not budgeted and will, at least a portion of this, will need to be done this fiscal year. Some of this will go over into the next fiscal year, not the, I didn't divide that up, but you can see we were proposing $500 a month for the advertising, so you can kind of figure probably as much as $1,500 to $2,000 will end up being in the next fiscal year. The materials such as the hard hats and shovels and things like that would be purchased all in this fiscal year. I just talked to Paul from the chamber today. Obviously, this came to them too late for them to put it on one of their board meetings. He has stated that he would like to take it back to his board. So I don't necessarily have to have the funding approval tonight. What I am asking is see if you agree to the program and want us to do something like this during the streetscape. And then we can bring back the funding issue once the chamber has had a chance to look at that. You know, maybe there's something where only a portion of it comes from the business license surcharge, or maybe none of it, or maybe all of it from, you know, whatever share we decide to do. There's various ways we could do that. But I wanted to give the chamber an opportunity to look at that and see what their feelings were on this program. So,
Paul?
Paul Wallace, 2025 N Street here in Newman, president of the Newman Chamber of Commerce. I think that while we haven't had a meeting, we will have a meeting tomorrow evening that Cleve may have a conflict or may not have a conflict on, where we'll have a chance to discuss this and actually come to an official position. One of our very real concerns is that the language for what this tax is collected from the businesses for doesn't really allow this use. And frankly, this was a use that we were looking at and thought, you know, this is a pretty good idea. I think that most of the board members look at this and understand that it's a benefit to the businesses, and Newman would like to see it done. But we're a little concerned that this fund was created to do solid things. This fund was created to put garbage cans in downtown when there was too much litter, and it was created to put bike racks downtown when people were leaving their bikes in front of stores. And that this is a somewhat fleeting use, that 2 years from now there won't be any bike racks, there won't be any, the hard hats will have served their purpose to get people into downtown businesses, but they won't have a lasting value that we would have if we purchased some hard asset or something, something that was added to the real estate or something like that. And we will have a, yes, David?
I don't think we have to worry about the trash receptacles or the bike racks. That's all going to be part of the streetscape. And in the surcharge fund, it mentions that it's for promotion of downtown business.
I dispute that. I didn't read that when I read the resolution. And it very much surprised me, because I had absolutely intended to use this money that way, to present to the city government a plan. We had considered a communal advertising where we would be using relatively inexpensive cable TV. This was a program that we had worked on last year and did not get a big response from the merchants in town. But we were thinking, gosh, we've got some sum of money here. We can go ahead and put together some cooperative advertising and use the money for that. But the resolution, I was pretty floored to find how I read it anyway, that it was very particular in the word
It's
is
a little vague, I
beautification.
admit that.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe the way it states it is, and you'll use the example, Christmas decorations, but decorations, physical items for the promotion of downtown. So that's where the word promotion comes in, but it's not actually, it's decorative items for the promotion of downtown, I believe is the way it's stated. So you're right, Paula. It is very limited in how it's defined. And I think the reason is that, and I think that's something that perhaps the chamber would be interested in. I know I am possibly bringing back to review that because of the fact that I think it was originally set up almost entirely for Christmas decorations, and possibly for the flags also.
The flags,
but
right.
Primarily for the Christmas decorations, they wanted to be able to do some things, and they didn't have the money for it, and they looked at this as a way to raise the funding to be able to do that. Now that a lot of that has been done, you know, we have the flags, the banners that we do, we have a lot of our Christmas decorations. As the trees get bigger, we need to do more, we realize. But I think that fund has gotten to a point too, and as businesses get bigger, perhaps that language can be expanded to allow some of the things that you brought up, if that's something the chamber is interested in, the downtown merchants are interested in doing. So it's something maybe needs to be considered in the
I
future.
personally, and I think that several of my directors, in informal conversations, I think there are others that would be interested in a full review of that and getting it out and discussing it and listening to some of the folks like Bob Navoa and some of the others that were around when this original language was written and hearing their side of why it was done that way, but also taking a look, because it certainly makes a lot of sense to us that might be a very reasonable use to do promotional kind of activities.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor? I had two business people call me on this item, and the way it's written right now, they're opposed to it because of the way it's written. And they're saying it says physical. And so therefore, I'd rather hear wait and hear to see what the chamber says, and whether or not they want us to proceed in making changes to allow some of this other stuff.
Yeah, I don't think that that's something that we should just kind of glance over, but it's something that we should open out in a full, thoughtful discussion of the ramifications either way.
Okay. Can we put this off till the next meeting?
I would like to probably proceed with at least the program. How we fund it will be another issue
Okay.
that we can put off, but
All right.
in order to make sure that I get this going, I need to start looking at probably ordering some of these things and getting it.
So
I don't really think I've heard anything that says anybody is opposed to the actual program. It's just a
No.
matter of
No, no,
The
nobody
program's
exactly
fine.
how we fund it.
I
So-
think as a businessman, I might recommend that you stick with one promotional item. That just less confusion for a merchant to have 3 boxes of things to give
Yeah.
away, and it certainly sounds
Yeah.
like something
One
children would be
thing, one
interested
thing we
in.
looked at is that perhaps we would go, maybe we rotate it through. So at any given time, they would only have one item. But as they run out, maybe they run out of hard hats, this time we give you shovels. But yeah, so at any given time though, they would only have one item. That way, if you rotated it, throughout town, if somebody comes downtown, the kid gets a hard hat in one store, then they go down across the street to the other one, oh look, they have shovels here rather than hard hats, and hey, can I get one of those too? And that kind of thing, so.
The only other point that I have that is somewhat related is to strongly urge as much as possible to get a schedule available to the merchants as soon as possible. One of the things that made the streetscape work relatively painlessly, according to the Turlock Chamber, and of course they're in a much larger, much longer, and they tore their streets up for a longer period of time at any given point than what so far I've heard us anticipate. One of the things that made it work for them was knowing when things were going to happen, and if you knew that you were going to be down around the 4th of July, you didn't order twice as much red, white, and blue bunting as you usually buy. You cut back on your orders so that you weren't stuck with material you couldn't sell during the shop being closed.
I think that's been established. That's what we're going to do. And
I just urge you to do it as soon as possible. I know that I'm very lucky in my line of work. We order things in, get them the next day. But there's other things that I order, and most of the retail shops, I think, they have to come out months in advance and put together a big order anticipating their seasonal needs. And
I'd like to make a comment. Temecula is a town that went through something very similar to this, probably on a bigger scale than we're going through. It was interesting that during the period of time that the actual construction was going on, they actually increased their business. So what I'm saying is, if things are done right, and if there's good planning, it will work. And I think that's what you're talking about, Paul, is the good planning and being informed.
And I think exactly the kind of things where we've got some promotion. And of course, the one other point that the chamber has come to a resolution on and has decided in our meetings is that be this fund money there or not, the city should be doing some promotion with city money. There should be some effort by the city to promote the city of Newman. Obviously, merchants are one of the people that benefits that, as are any property owners and anybody that benefits from the community as a whole. But we certainly feel that that is part of the role of city government, that there should be some funding for promotion of the city.
I just wanted to state quickly, I've stated to the merchants, I believe it came out in the newspaper, and all of them that I've talked to, is that they will have a minimum of 2 weeks before, once we tell them, before we start construction, and I realize 2 weeks from what you're saying, sometimes orders are a month out and things like that, but that means the time before we initially start construction and really get into it. Most of them will probably have a month before anything happens in front of theirs. So I think that there will be adequate time. Just as soon as we have that schedule, we will get a meeting together, and we will, we won't keep anybody in the dark. We're just finalizing a couple of things. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow, and I hope to be able to start putting some finishing touches on that schedule tomorrow with the contractor and our engineers. So as soon as we have something, we will definitely schedule that meeting and get the information out to all of those. And that's the other thing that this advertising campaign will also do. We'll provide that information, as well as a couple of other programs we're designing to get the information out to business owners. So
Well, we thank you for your help, and we really appreciate being heard by the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Can we have a motion to approve the promotion costs with the exception of how they're being paid for?
I move that we approve the proposal for downtown promotion costs during streetscape construction estimated at $4,500 in lieu of how this would be paid for, be stated in the future.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 10, items from city manager. Anything left?
I think we pretty well covered it. I don't have anything solid to report. I wanted to just mention on the skateboard park, but it is moving forward. I will tell you that we're very close on getting some things going on the concrete. I believe I was going to look up the date before I came over here, but next week I received the proposals back on the ramps, and so that is in process, and we are moving forward with it as quickly as we can now. So that's all I have.
Items from city council members. Tim?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at a memorandum here that was actually written by you, Margaret, and it's regarding Phyllis Guide. I just was wondering about that easement approaching the property owner at the Senior Citizens Project. Is that moving along? This is about 2 months ago.
The problem right now is there's been a change in property management at the shopping center.
Okay.
Each particular business has its share of property which it has to take care of. It's not one property owner and manager anymore. They're having difficulty right now in determining whose easement they have to get in order to do this, to proceed. They are working on it.
So
I
the
just called
developer,
last week. We are
okay.
working on it.
Okay, great. And the only other thing I had with the discussion of the streetscaping is something that I'm not aware that we've discussed or thought of, but that was a groundbreaking ceremony. I don't know if we proposed that at all or discussed it, but I think that would be something with such a momentous occasion that would be appropriate to be able to fit that in. Some discussion, I suspect. Mr. Mayor?
Paul, could you mention that at your meeting tomorrow, and maybe we can combine that with the chamber and do that? Is that okay?
Yeah. I've looked at it a little bit on a staff level. I've talked to a couple of people about it. We hadn't really determined whether, but that's definitely something that can be done.
We need to have our mayor turn that first shovel.
I think it's something that should be done. I
I've
mean,
been doing that all
considering
day.
this type of project and the cost consideration.
Okay.
I think it's only appropriate. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
Cleve, is it true? Somebody told me from the city that on our restrooms in the park, somebody burned one of them to the ground the same night.
The porta potty that we had been maintaining at Pioneer Park, actually the night that we discussed it as our last council meeting was destroyed.
And there's been some damage to some of the other restrooms.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
some of that is going on.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all I
We
have.
are keeping track of that so that we can
Yes.
get a report another month.
That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Martina?
Cleve, just a question. We realize with the Fall Festival, we're probably going to be still in construction on the streetscape. Do we have some type of contingency plan as far as what will occur? Because
Yeah, we'll work with the Fall Festival and see what can be done, and once we get into it a little bit, we can work with the contractor, perhaps we can be at a point where we can shut down for, that weekend and allow, get it in a condition where the parade can take place. The parade and the things that go on in the theater are the main things that would be a concern. Perhaps if we decide, and I don't know if this is possible, but perhaps we say, let's do that middle block first, so that for sure that one is done by that time, and then maybe we end up revising the parade route a little bit to make it work. But yeah, we'll work with them. This contractor, we've had some experience now because of the storm drain project, and we'll do everything that we can to make this work. He is very aggressive in getting his work done. It is my hope that there may still be a possibility that we can have a good portion of this done by Labor Day. We'll push hard for that. So.
Very good. Okay. The only other comment, coming back to Tartaric, just let's remember the track record has not been good, and that we have a lot at stake here with our community, and that we have to proceed cautiously. I just feel that we just have not done the right things in the past. We've been told things that never did occur, and I just don't want it to happen again. That's all I have.
John?
I just had a couple things. As far as the Fall Festival, the committee has discussed already alternate parade routes as far as worst case, just in case. So they're aware of it, but worst case, I emphasize worst case. Also, Cleve, what's the status on the marketplace, West Side Marketplace, as far as the weeds? Have any solution, any progress?
We have pursued that. I would have to talk to our maintenance crew. I can get I'll send you a memo and see where that's at. We are working with them, and it's my understanding that the Knob Hill has kind of taken a lead on that now and is trying to get that issue resolved. But I haven't got a report back yet on where that's at. But I'll get some information to you.
Also, what is our timetable for starting downtown? Do we have one? Do you know?
We don't have one until I meet with them tomorrow. I hope to get more of a firm commitment tomorrow at our meeting. So.
That's all I had.
Okay, I don't really have anything. We covered just about everything. One of our council members, I think, is having a birthday tomorrow. Is that it? Something like that? Somebody was saying about that. Beats me.
Must be John.
We don't talk about that.
Big John.
And another one is kind of hobbling around here on crutches, but
That's what I wanted to ask. Who assaulted Tom?
Margaret.
Oh.
I asked her for a check for Rotary, and she beat me up.
I have to sign him a bodyguard. That's all I have, so if there's nothing else.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
That's my job.
I beat you to it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's get out of here.
You dog.